Hello and welcome back to Perfect Cellar, Perfect TastingBOX video, which we presenting with Christopher Delalonde, Master Sommelier, as we always do. And this is the June edition. This is this year's third or fourth box, I believe. Before I introduce Chris to you, let me just play our intro. Hello, Chris. Welcome.
Hello, Csaba. Hello, everyone. Welcome exactly to the June
Perfect TastingBOX, exactly. And we have a white, a rosé, and a red. The red is quite an exciting one, and today we're gonna do a Christopher Delalonde because we're gonna do it backwards, meaning starting with the red,
I don't know if
rosé, and white.
it's really backwards. I mean, the given order is always, white and then red, or potentially rosé, white and red, or white, red, and the sort of the red will usually finish. But it's a very recent, I would say, it's a very 20th century way of drinking wine. In the old days, the red would actually be potentially the first one you would drink because you go sort of crescendo, yes, but the acidity of white has a tendency to clean up your palate. As we talked about this element a few times beforehand, when I do big wine tasting, I always start with the red and finish with the white. Get my palate sort of going onto the red, so get tired with all those tannins, the sweetness, the alcohol, the body, the power, the complexity, the intensity, and so on and so forth. And then I finish with the white, which are obviously lifted, much more acid, and therefore your palate tends to mitigate and understand more, especially on the long. When I say big wine tasting, I'm talking about 50, 60, 100 wines a day. This is how you would do. So yeah, today I think, given the complexity, the intensity, and type of wine we have in front of us, and I think you will understand as we go through those wines in the tasting. I think to me it makes sense to start with the Ripasso.
Yes, I don't mind starting with this one. I really love the style anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like about so it's a project that is not very old. I did some research. Started in 2005. They obviously bought some older vineyards that were planted kind of in the 60s, but or otherwise everything is relatively new in terms of estate itself. It's not something that was is ancestral and traditional where it is, but given that they really put their mind behind it, and all the vineyards that they have planted and approached from quite high elevation. And as we established and discussed this a few times also, the elevation helps with obviously wind, especially in that part of the world. So we are in Veneto, we are northeast of Italy, exactly. Well, Venice is the main city basically, but the Veneto is actually quite a large area which produce sort of the Soave on white and the Valpolicella in red. So Soave, you have the sort of the dry style and the aged style, the lee style, and so on, and then the sort of sweet wine coming from this area. But you also have the red, so Valpolicella, Valpolicella Classico, Valpolicella Superiore, and then you've got the Recioto, which is the sweet wine of red wine, and then obviously you've got the Amarone, which basically the fruit is the same grape variety used for Valpolicella, but it's dried, is hair dried in massive. It used to be outside, but now basically massive warehouses with ventilation and so on. And then as you dry those things, the water gets out, so you concentrate the flavor and the structure and the sweetness and so on. And then you obviously ferment, and then those wines comes out at 16% of alcohol. Amarone. So usually the last bottle you will drink, if you start with an Amarone, really what can you drink after that? A part of a glass of white to clean up your teeth, literally. Nothing much. You can't really go that crescendo, especially given the alcohol and the concentration. So anyway, this is a ripasso. So what does ripasso stands for? It's a winemaking technique. It's traditional. So basically, if you make a Recioto, again, you sun dry the grape variety. It's a sweet wine as such. If you make an Amarone, as I said, you air dry the variety. But basically, when the fermentation is finished and the juice is run off, all the leftovers, so the skin, some of the pulp, the seeds, even some of the wooden part, the stalk, will remain in that tank. And what they do is they use that to put into an already fermenting Valpolicella. And basically, there's so much still texture, sweetness, sugar potentially left in those elements that it adds. So you restart again, it helps with prolongating the fermentation and adds a lot more structure, a lot more fruit, and a lot more sweetness, potentially some alcohol as well, into the ripasso, to the point where this ripasso is 14.5 alcohol. So this is really what it stands for. But having said that, it also gives all that sort of complexity, sweetness. So more on the estate itself, what those guys have done. So it's two brothers that have started this, and they are so sort of working hard and mentally pushing the boundary that they even created a tank, so a metallic tank, so basically a fermenting system, as to even extract more precision, more definition, and more importantly, as it is the point, as to have these elevated vineyards maintaining that acidity profile, and to the point that they even get a patent for their creation, the invention on the tank. So they are definitely, is the mind behind the label as such. So here the grape variety are classic, so Corvina Veronese, which is really the grape variety of the area that makes really the best wines. Corvinone, which is another red grape variety, and Rondinella. Everything is obviously traditionally hand harvested, and everything goes into oak, large barrique, 500 liters and above, some new, and everything is French oak. So this is basically what those guys are doing when it comes to sort of winemaking, handling on their end. And the wine shows, I mean, so the first thing I was really interested about is the color. It's very much mahogany with a kind of slightly orangey rim, so there is evolution. It is a 7 years old wine, so yes, you have a slight touch of evolution. And it's definitely medium plus in terms of concentration. And of course, high viscosity. So if you run your wines through the glass on the walls, you really see a slight coloring, but also it's just all the legs come slowly coming down, and that's basically the alcohol, the viscosity, the element that give you that information if you do blind tasting, that this is a wine that has that sort of intensity of alcohol. So potentially you start to think of the grape variety, the Cellar vintage, or a vintage that has that capacity to give this element, this footprint of ethanol, because that's what sticks to the glass. And then on the nose, the wine is definitely, it's developing. It's still developing. It's not, doesn't have, despite the color, it doesn't have yet a lot of tertiary. It's starting to move in there, but the first thing that comes to mind is that sort of, is that beautiful intensity with ripe dark fruits, jam blueberries, cherries, blue plums, and loads of spices, licorice, cinnamon, sweet fruits, cedar wood. And then as the wine sort of breathe. So I've opened the ones all together, left them for about half an hour, and then started to test them. And even after half an hour of the on the red, it took some time and a bit of work like this to get even more. And then, funnily enough, you got all those kind of forward flavor, and then eventually you've got a much more gentle character with crushed cranberries. There's some sort of roasted nuts, leather, barbecue, sort of green meat, black pepper coming through. It's really complex notes. It's exuberant to an extent as well, and definitely from the opening it's really shout at you as here I am, very Italian, talking with his hands, vibrant and exuberant, characteristic.
The first thing for me here was that you probably mentioned it already, is that sort of very jammy fruit which comes out of it, and a ton of spice.
Yeah, and then now it's coming with like a smoky, cedary.
I'm expecting
tobacco.
From the nose, I would expect more sweetness in the wine, but at the same time,
the first impression is that you will think, because of that sort of jam fruit, cooked fruit, you would think that potentially, yes, the wine could have sort of sweetness or ripeness, tonality. But funnily enough, it doesn't.
It doesn't know.
The
It's
palate
dry.
for me, it's almost the opposite. It starts much more with red fruit than actually with black fruit. Again, the red fruit is jammed, it's cooked, it's overripe, and then again the spices, the cinnamon, the licorice, that's coming from the oak barrel. That's a fact. Then the leather, the cedarwood, the leafy, sort of leafy character. And then you've got that sort of sweet tonality, yes, from the ripeness, of course, the black cherries and the plums. And then it develops also with the earthy notes, foresty, and again, sort of charcoal barbecued that comes, sort of takes it's almost like layered and layered and layered and layered, concentrated, and definitely heavy meat palette. It sits there with beautiful concentration and sort of muscular, full of character and power as such. But again, you've got that, that mind behind the label that is, I want to make a fresh wine despite all this complexity and this intensity and potentially this sweetness. So you've got that beautiful, again, acidity that's just kind of, it's maintained, it's dry, but it's really lift and maintain that fruit, very juicy and digestible. It's very approachable and very drinkable, despite, the muscle and the concentration again.
I think actually it's quite a fresh wine in a funny way, because it is a big wine. It's a massive wine, loads of character, loads of fruit, loads of spice, and everything, and high alcohol as well. But as you mentioned, that acidity is beautifully lifted. I think it's fantastic. I
Yeah,
really
it's a lot of
enjoy.
energy. It's almost electric. It's it's the energy in this one is really what come through, and then you've got all those flavors. You got sort of the leathery, the sort of slightly kind of savory attitude on the finish, on the sort of the mid palate to the finish. Very soft tannin structure, very soft tannin structure that sort of elongates and add to the very long length on sort of primary fruit. So with a touch of sweetness and touch of alcohol, but that's normal at that level. It's part of the wine, is really well integrated, and at 14 and a half, yeah, you would expect to see it somewhere, but it doesn't counterpart anywhere else. It's really just there on the finish, a little touch of it. But again, if you play with the temperature, you keep it, on between the 16 and the 18 Celsius, this alcohol will nowhere to be seen. And again, on sort of food pairing, if you go with heavy dishes, you can drink that anytime you want. But it's, to me, it's something that sort of call for heavy spices, stews, potentially barbecued meat will work
Barbecue. I was gonna say
wonders,
barbecue. Yeah.
because there's so much flavors to it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would be very happy with this in June. Actually, in fact, I will be very happy with this in June. But yeah, I love it actually. And you mentioned the alcohol level as well on this wine, but and you definitely get that extra bit of sort of ABV, that 14 and a half. You will notice it anyway, but I would almost miss it if it wasn't there in a funny way.
Yeah,
You need a bit of
it
ABV
adds to
there.
the complexity, it adds to the texture, it adds a lot of different elements within that winemaking to really kind of integrate that alcohol, that sweetness, and that acidity. It's very smart winemaking. The footprint is not really present from the winemaker, but the result, you definitely think that the person that made that wine, is technically dotted. He knows what he's doing, and it's definitely something that is the end of a long process of deep thinking in order to offer that wine. It's very well made, very well made. There's nothing to say.
And,
Uh,
and although it comes in one of these pouches in a box, but if you have a look at the bottle itself, I think it's very classically Italian. It's label, the bottle itself, it's a very classically Italian wine, not just in taste, but in packaging as well.
it's definitely Italian. It's no one else can do something like this, especially with this great variety and the climatology. But but no, it's a great one. And that's why I wanted to start with this, because then we move on to. Funny enough, I thought let's move on to the rosé, because again I was quite impressed. So I know Domaine de la Croix personally. I know the people behind it. It's in a state where it's a secular estate that has been sold about 15 years ago to a very large group, and they put a lot of money in it in order to sort of implement a team. It's a bit more technical than you would expect, but I mean, rosé making is not as straightforward as you would think. I always take the analogy that if you make white wine, you're a plumber. If you make red wine, you're a carpenter. Yes, you both work in a house, but it's not the same job. And it's not the same job to make a white wine. It's not the same job to make a red wine. The techniques, the attention to details, the focus are at different level, different moment. To make a rosé, it's the combination. Because again, you don't get that color by going to sleep. That color will come eventually right in the middle of the night, and that's where you need to be there and then split the solid and the liquid. When I say that's because the color is in the red wine skin. That's where the wine gets its color. So you make red wine, you make a maceration. We talked about that many times, like a tea bag, imagine. So basically, to make a rosé, you've got that maceration going on, and you need to check when eventually the color that you're trying to achieve is there, and then you split the solid and the liquid. Therefore, there's no more macerations, there's no more extractions, there's no more colorification. Then you put that into another tank, and then you finish the fermentation on its own without that contact and that heat that basically absorb and suck up all the different color from the red varieties or the white varieties, because rosé is not only made with red varieties, as we found out, especially in this estate. So again, the Mandela Croix is an estate that is about 150 years old in terms of pure location and tradition. They've had some glorious time, less glorious time, but winemaking came kind of quite late within the estate. It was much more an orchard, and some other vegetables were grown, because again, you are just on the Presqu'île of Fréjus, so really, really at the bottom of Provence, by the sea, basically. So it wasn't really, the winemaking didn't really evolve there before the Second World War. Before that, it was mainly anything to do with fruit and vegetables and almond tree and sort of peach, apricot, and that's because also they were obviously much more, the remuneration was much better at the time. And then slowly they started to think, there's something to be done, and the entire region was changing, and then winemaking and wine growing as such starting, and then winemaking followed up. So there's two gentlemen, Olivier Pack in the vineyards, and Edouard Planel, who is the chief enologist. And those two guys basically really control from the fruit that comes to the winery to the fruit be transformed into wine. I mean, they have I think it's 3,500 square meter cellar underground. I mean, they have the nec plus ultra of facility to produce something like this. They produce, I think, 3 roses, 3 whites, and 5 reds. It's quite a large estate. I think they have, I can't remember what I read, but they have something like about 150 hectares to play with, 110 or 120 hectares. So they can really access a lot of different fruit and quality. But funny enough, as I was saying, this is made of Grenache at 70%, Cinsault 20%. So Cinsault is a grape variety you will rarely find on its own. It's always a blending, as it adds sort of structure and backbone. Mourvedre, which is Matao in Spain, which is a very awkward taciturn grape variety that needs a lot of sun to ripen, but brings so much body and so much strength and certain tightness as it goes. And then Syrah at 5% each as well with Mourvedre. And the Syrah is much more kind of the sort of, it could be alcoholic. You have to be careful with Syrah when you pick it to maintain that freshness, but otherwise it's very much the floral, the lift of acid that is behind the wine. But Grenache is here, the essence, because Grenache is one of the grape variety that when you get it right in terms of ripeness, it's so elegant, it's so pure, it's so stylish. That's really an amazing grape variety to play with. Again, all those vineyards are very close to the sea. So from the vineyards, you see the sea. So the sea breeze, not much elevation, but the sea breeze always maintain a good temperature. There, the real threat is extreme heat and drought, even though they haven't been that badly damaged over the last couple of years, or even 10 years. But it's still something that during the summer there, it can get very, very, very hot.
It's sort of Saint-Tropez area, isn't it?
Yeah, Saint-Tropez
Yeah,
Peninsula. Yes, Fréjus,
Saint-Tropez.
Saint-Tropez.
Yeah.
So it's really down the south. I mean, it's a Côte de Provence appellation, but it's also a cru classé. It's not common knowledge, but in 1955, 28 estates were classified as cru classé. At the time, it was very short as such, because some estates didn't get classified. Some was obviously the classical French way to deal with
Politics.
things, and politics and papers, as I call them. They like to push pencil on the paper and make people unhappy without very much knowledge, but it's just a lot of politics. And then today, 23 remains through that version. So La Croix is a cru classé in 1955 and remains very much that. So I mean, they were classified a little bit like Bordeaux was classified, or Burgundy was classified, really by the quality of the wines on 15 years previously, and the positioning, the vineyard attention, and so on and so forth. So I mean, I'm glad they got it, because that's never been reviewed and it will never be reviewed again, because it's you would argue that it brings something to the quality of the wine. It gives an ethos, but it's not something that is very much known or celebrated among customer and guests. So somewhere, who cares? But I put my
We
hands
do.
up.
We do.
This one is a cru classé, and to be honest with you, it reflects again into the wine. 2023 vintage. So again, the vintages of the essence here, great vintage, very young, but you want that in the wine. But it's funny, because as I was going through the wine, there's few things that came up to my mind. I was like, hang on a minute. So I will describe quickly the wine as it came through. So it's super bright, it's brilliant, with high intensity. It has a very light onion skin, so very much to the market. People want very light rosé nowadays, with a light pink hue. Again, in my glass, it's a sort of a medium viscosity, so not much ethanol there, but it's an easy 12.5, 13 alcohol, and
13 and a half.
it says here 13.5 on the bottle. Again, I
Yep.
didn't really pick that up, again, because of that acidity. But anyway, on the nose, again, it's really open, it's very vibrant, it's very zesty, it's youthful.
Citrus. Lots of citrus.
Primary, fresh, crushed fruits, raspberries, strawberries, lingonberries, cranberries, orange peel, floral notes, violet, peony, tomato leaves, herbaceous, a touch of white peppers I found kind of coming around. And then there's a sort of kind of, menthol, sage aspect. On the nose, I didn't really get any spices from oak. There's a little touch of spices, but I couldn't say if the one was oaked or not, even though I know it's been oaked. On the nose, I couldn't tell whatsoever. There's a touch of kind of whetstone to bring that minerality through. And as the wine open up, there is a sort of candied fruit also that come through toward the sort of, again, the layer of nose. It's just slowly opened up and warm up, and sort of give that sort of candied, ripe character. And then on the palate, again, to me, it's the intensity of the wine.
It's exactly what I would expect from a classic Provence rosé.
Everything is textbook as far as I'm concerned. But again, this intensity on the palate is quite unique. You've got intensity, it's taut, it's fresh, it's full of flavors. It sings with the sort of garrigue of the Provence area, with, again, the ripe berries, the crushed fruit, blossom, floral, spices. Then on the palate, I've got the spices. I've got the sort of black and white pepper, from oak, a bit of cedar, and then it goes into the sort of mid palate with a full weight of ripeness, complexity again of the delivery, with a lovely fresh and acid structure. This is really, again, the key here, is that despite all this intensity, this complexity, this kind of bodied is not the word I would use, but that sort of generous development on the mid palate, again, he has that beautiful drive, and that sort of, again, that kind of tautness, that precision of acidity that just kind of make it lingering there, brings a little touch of bitterness that makes you salivate for that on that sort of very long primary fruit character finish, and you just want to go back to it. It's just one, okay, let's have another try. It's very enticing. very, very interesting. And I'm not a big rosé fan in general, but for the
Yes.
quality of the wine itself, there's nothing to be said.
It's actually quite funny. You mentioned that you wouldn't say it's bodied, but it actually is. It feels a little bit more body than in most Provence rosé you would get.
I am.
I
No,
think
it's
you have a lot of spice, and then it is fairly long on the finish, and then very nice citrus fruit at the end.
yeah, zesty, exactly, zesty, saline, that sort of intensity, complexity, sweet fruit finish as well, candied fruit finish. That really makes you salivate and then really entice you to come back to it. It's definitely a rosé. How to put that together? A masculine rosé, but not
Yeah,
really, because it's not muscular. It has a lot of charm, a lot of class,
yeah,
but definitely some stature. It's not.
mhm,
It has definitely an approachability, drinkability, but I
yeah,
think it has such a frame that it's also something that you almost kind of take with time. It's just you'll have
yeah,
one glass at a time.
yeah, yeah. Oh, one
But,
bottle at a time. But
what I'm trying to say is that you will go through the bottle, but it's not water. It has much
no,
more
it's not.
much
No,
more structure than that.
yeah. It does have really, yes, structure is the right word, I think, because everything is there, and everything is really well made and well balanced altogether. I think
Yeah,
it's
it's
probably
very well
one of my
knitted.
new favorite rosés, actually.
It's a very,
So
very well knitted, and that's when I come to sort of the conclusion. Sort of, to me, it's open and enjoy. There's no need much to wait for it in terms of pure cork pulling. Again, not too cold. 12, 13 to 15. Don't go too warm either, but don't go too cold because you kill the flavor profile. Definitely for me, it's a rosé that needs food on its own. It's too much almost. You need some proteins, fresh fish, poultry, white meat, seafoods, steamed veggies. For me would be white asparagus or asparagus would work fantastic with a muslin sauce, fantastic. But Asian sort of food spices, potentially, Chinese, even Japanese. But it's where I'm starting to think, rosé is seen as an aperitif. If you have that as an aperitif, it's a big aperitif to have. So you will need potentially some cured meat. But this is where I'm coming thinking, even though you would get that in your cellar and then thinking, okay, beautiful day, let's drink something fresh and easy and refreshing and delicious and open this. I think it definitely will benefit from being drunk next summer and potentially even the summer after that. I think there is capacity there
for
to
aging.
for the wine to age, funnily enough. And I
It's
know
an interesting point because we are talking about it in a different episode where we're talking about rosé a little bit more deeper, but it's not every day when you can age a rosé.
I mean, there's again traditions, throughout the world where rosé can be aged and is aged. Again, it's more about the consumer view and the consumer expectations and wish to drink such wines. And that's why I thought going after the red, because again of the acidity and the structure, no problem, absolutely no problem to follow after the ripasso. None.
Yeah,
The palate is
exactly.
not suffering. It's just another glass of wine, and it's actually kind of prepare you for what comes. And what
Yeah,
comes was a bit of a surprise to me,
a
even though
Rioja. There you go.
we tested few wines from there. I did few videos and so on for Perfect
Yeah,
Cellar from the wine of Casa, so I know they stayed quite well. Again, it's a young project. It's 2012. It started. It's vast. It's 800 hectares. So they've got orchard, they've got trees, they've got a great variety. Obviously, they've got different productions. Only 110 hectares of vines are planted. So they are southern part of Rioja, about 100 miles from Logroño, so the sort of main city of Rioja. Again, Rioja white in production is probably about 7 to 10% of the production. Only two good varieties are allowed, Viura and Malvasia. So Viura is Macabeo, and Malvasia is Malvoisie, Malvasia. that you can find throughout Europe, sometimes used for making sweet wines as well as such. So this is 35 years old vineyard, 50-50, high elevation, lot of limestone, so bringing a lot of acidity and minerals in there. It does 14 months in French oak of 500 liters.
You can taste it.
And that's something that to me, maybe a bit too pushed. Maybe I would question that in two aspects. Is the winemaker footprint might have been a bit heavy, but if she does that, she does that. She's a talented winemaker, no question about that. She makes great wines. But I think she's so 18 as a vintage that has so much potential. And I think that's what the message is again, it's one of those wines that you almost you buy 6 or buy 3, you drink one now, and the 2 others you think, okay, let's give it 6 months, 8 months, a year, and then in a year time you retest, and then potentially you give the last bottle another year, because I think that's wine will benefit from that timing. Even though it definitely can be drunk now. The only thing I would do is probably I will tweak the temperature of service just a bit lower than normal, just to lift a bit more, because it's so massive. You could argue that the acid structure is not strong enough, is not deep enough in the root of the wine to kind of really, it struggles to sort of lift and maintain that sort of freshness on mid palate. The wine is so heavy, it's so structured, it's so oily and creamy. So let's come to that on the tasting. So classic color, so again, bright, high intensity, so light gold with a golden hue, medium plus to high, even high viscosity. Again, it's a 13.5, 14%. So quite big baby, 13.5 maglass. So you can tell really goes nicely around all the edges and then slowly goes down. So this is the alcohol. And on the nose, again, you've got that sort of intensity straight away, exuberance, developing character. It's complex. To me, the first thing that came to my mind was quince. And quince is not really what I would normally associate with Viura or Macabeo Viura, but it's the first thing that came to mind. Sort of quince, ripe red apples, bruised apples, pears, blossom, honeysuckle, spices. Definitely the oak is showing on the nose straight away. Cinnamon, and probably more cloves, actually, funnily enough. Yeah, the smoky character of cloves.
It's funny because you mentioned that you have the oak shows really strongly on the nose, which is obvious, but it's also that sort of underlying ripe fruit which comes through really nicely as well.
It's funny because again, I tested CASA white before we started to chat, so I probably finished to test this one 40 minutes ago, and I just poured this as we basically came online, so 20 minutes ago, 50 minutes ago, and again it changed dramatically. The wine has changed so much. Right now, I was like, oh, really? That's very different to what I wrote. There's much more floral character, marjolaine to me.
Banana to me in many ways. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, it's more unripe mango, exotic papaya,
Mango, yeah. Mm-hmm.
and definitely some mineral touch coming there again. Sort of the limestone really strike through. Orange zest,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
and again some almonds, some spring flowers emerges. I wrote on my tasting notes tight. The nose was sort of had a sense of tightness, which
Yeah.
is now completely gone. It's very, even though he was exuberant, he has a certain sort of reticence to really give, and now it's gone. You really have that exuberance and really kind of forward on the nose expression. And on the palate,
Actually, very, very, very exciting nose for me. I really like the nose.
I like the nose too. And the palate, yeah, it hasn't changed now. To me, what the first hit was the sort of the complexity and the texture of the delivery. Creamy, velvety, oily. That's really what come with that sort of oily, weighty, straight sitting on the middle of your tongue and sort of pushing down because it has just a sort of massive stature. big body, unctuous, and definitely powerful.
A little bit reminds me of California Chardonnay, actually.
Yeah, no, it's a
Big
good,
California Chardonnay,
it's a good
or something like Viognier or Marsanne or
with the
something
arc,
like that.
with the oak. Viognier could be like that. Condrieu, because you have
Yeah.
a low density of acidity, so it's primarily that sort of body and the power that shine, especially on the mid palate, on the tongue. But you have this mid palate is filled up with orchard fruit, ripened fudge, cooked spices, again sort of tarte tatin style, cinnamon, cloves, again from the oak. Unripe exotic fruit, the mango also touches on the palate. Butterscotch, toast, brioche, which is definitely the oak again character. I got a sort of marzipan character, so almondy. It's definitely muscular and of big status. It has a very good lift of acid, but the weight would, as far as I'm concerned, would need. It's there, but it's just like a little bit more punch, and I think age will do that. I think the wine is very balanced, so as long as we have the balance will remain. But I think age will help the fruit and the weight to sort of turn a little bit around, and that acidity be just surround a bit more and maintain and continue to kind of linger all around. It's there, but it's just like a little bit. The fruit and the intensity of the wine, and the primary, the sort of youth, still maintain and still control that part. It still dictate, and the acidity hasn't yet managed to sort of take control entirely of the palate, even though I think it's there and it will definitely develop in that direction. So again, one of those wines that June wine, I am not sure. I mean, I like the wine, I like the complexity and the intensity, but the drinkability is a bit like Viognier, big Chardonnay, oaky Chardonnay. It's one thing that you have a glass and a half, and then you get tired of it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's just too much, basically. You palate sort of.
Unless you get food. What's the food option?
But again, exactly. This is more, again, this is not an aperitif wine. It's something that you sit around the table with complex, intense food profile. Again, potentially something that has sort of cream, something that's got some texture, that's got some intensity.
Risotto.
Yeah, risotto, some kind of old traditional sort of stews, like Ritvo or Ville, a very big stroganoff, or blanquette de veau.
Okay.
Blanquette de veau à l'ancienne, so very sort of long cooking, 2 or 3 hours in a bath. I mean, no, who has 3 hours to cook those things? But Mom, well, she's retired, obviously, so she's got all the time in the world. So and when I come home, usually she's like, okay, what do you want to do? And what do you want to eat? So she cooks things like this. Even in June, she doesn't care. And yeah, it's just bloody lovely. Okay, but the good thing is that you eat that for 3 days, because it's so much. It's just 2 of us. So usually, yeah, it's quite a big pot. But point being is that sort of flavor profile that you are much more kind of wintry, to be fairly honest.
Yeah.
But having said that, this is what I would recommend: is buy 3 bottles of this, test it now, test it again during the winter, February, March next year, and then keep the last bottle for a couple of years, 2, 3, and then I think the last bottle you would think, I made a mistake not to buy 6.
Would you do anything on the barbecue with this one?
I could think of something that is oily, so mackerel, that sort of mackerel fish,
Yeah.
salmon to some extent, but mackerel, I love mackerel fish, and I think there is something to be done there. But again, if you play with the temperature, potentially you add a bit more of zest, a bit more freshness, a bit more lift, because the coolness will do that. It's just a massive wine, basically. It's just
It is a big one. Yeah.
very, very square, bodied. So given the quality of the winemaking, the quality of the fruit, the attention to details, I think this is what is lacking, is the time. Even
Yeah.
though you'll argue, Chris, is 2018. Yes,
Mm.
and so what?
Out of the 3, what is the wine of the day for you?
It hurts to say, but I think it's the rosé.
I told you. I thought it will be, and this is a moment which I think I have to make a note of this, because Chris Delalonde says it's the rosé of
Come on. Don't give me an image that I don't already have. Yeah, I've got many facets. That's very true. It's true. I'm not a big fan of rosé because I think it's either you drink white, you drink red. Why would you drink in the middle? But having said that, even though I love some roses, but I'm not a big rosé fan. I don't buy rosé for myself or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is a sense of place. That's for me the most important. You know, you've got a beautiful sunny sunshine. You close by the sea. You have a barbecue with friends. You drink rosé all day, and I've got no problem with that. For me, drinking rosé on the 31st of December, this is where I've got something doesn't compute. But I'm old-fashioned. You can tell, you know, got what beer, what air. So yes, it's an old-fashioned potentially way of thinking that the market has changed dramatically, and it's fine. I've got no problem with that. But personally, yes, rosé is not my go-to wines wherever I go at and enjoy time with friends and so on. So yeah, it's a bit of a shock, but I think it's just it's a great expression. No doubt. No doubt.
I think I agree with you today as well, because although all three wines are really well made wines,
no doubt.
I believe for the weather, for June, for the whole setup, I think the rosé win for me as well. So people, please enjoy a 3-pack or a 6-pack of Perfect TastingBOX.
The rosé is special. Yeah, I agree.
And yes, do buy a few bottles as well, because you get 25% discount on all the wines as well. So why not? So we tasted VALPOLICELLA RIPASSO. We tasted a Provence rosé and a white RIOJA today, and we both
we went to Italy, south of France, and northwest of Spain. So fantastic.
Because this is the European classics. I think this is the name of the tasting.
Very classic. We all know of the Whispering Angel of this world. Nothing to say there, but this is Whispering Angel on testosterone. Literally.
That was a perfect ending for this. Brilliant. Anyway, guys, thank you very much, and thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Csaba.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.